What's up, everybody? Welcome to Game Moose episode 131, a palindrome.
Oh, yeah, 131, yeah.
I know. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Turford, alongside the ghost with the most, Drew McMillan.
Hey, I'm more on that later.
What, the fact that you're a ghost or that you're here? Or?
Yeah, I played a video game, Ryan. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, God.
I've been playing.
I know what you've been playing.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what? Screw it. We can do it's our show. We can do it what we want. You want to just talk about it now?
Yeah, I do. Because I've been playing some interesting things.
Yeah. So, Drew, what have you been playing?
I played Destiny 2, Ryan.
What's wrong with you?
You
You swore to me you'd never go back.
No.
Actually, that's not true at all. That was Destiny 1, not Destiny 2.
Yeah, I am definitely done with Destiny 1.
Well, I would hope so.
I wanted to play the Warmind expansion. It had been long enough. I had read enough reviews, and I wanted to play the content regardless. I just wanted to see what they were doing. I knew what the story was. I knew what happened. And I just wanted to give it a try and see what it was like. And I also wanted to play that stuff before Forsaken came out because I definitely want to play that.
Right.
So, yeah. It's a lot better than Trials of Osiris.
Okay.
Or not Trials of Osiris.
Well,
Trials
yeah.
of Osiris.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was just bad branding. Yeah, it's like heads and tails better. It still has the same problems, though. The narrative is still... Their narrative is better, but it's not great. And they still use the same kind of framing devices for the narrative, which is just opening cutscene, closing cutscene, and then you kind of have to... And then just VO in between. There's most of the narrative development happens with like Zavala or Anna Bray over the radio telling you what's happening.
Great.
Right? Like the opening cutscene. Like the opening cutscene doesn't tell you very much.
Right.
Other than just like Anna Bray is on Mars. There's nothing. I mean, from when this is how not memorable the story is. There was nothing that like motivated your character to go there. Other than you watched a cutscene of another person doing something, and you're like, that looks interesting. And then you go there, and then it's Anna Bray saying, hi, it's me, Anna Bray. There's some stuff happening. Can you help me out there? There's some hive here. Let's fight the hive.
Great.
Yeah.
That sounds lovely.
So there's a new hive, and they got ice on them.
Excellent.
That's
it. That's something. Do they have ice abilities or some kind of change other than the fact that they have ice on them?
They very much do. They are different in terms of like they look a little bit different. They do have their abilities are a little switched up and not radically. It's just like we've seen different flavors of hive in the past,
right?
With different shaped hats and slightly different shield.
Even
types.
Between games, they're the same.
Yeah. So I mean, more or less. It's very similar. The best fight in the whole thing is the Nokris fight. So Nokris is Crota's excommunicated brother who resurrected Zol, a worm god, and they're kind of those are the big protagonists. But you don't even know it's Nokris until literally you get there, and then someone says, "Oh, wait a minute, that's Nokris. He's a bad dude." Well, and unless you're a big lore nerd, you won't know who Nokris is.
Or if you've gone to like the website and read the Grimoire cards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then same thing like Zol, you don't really get a sense of what the worm gods are, though they're making an active effort more and more for you to see the worms falling out of the hive after you kill them. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing is like the worms are like these like darkness related parasites that make the hive who they are. I mean, otherwise they're just like an insectoid race.
Yeah.
What makes them sort of like the evil monsters that they are is that they have this like parasitic or symbiotic relationship with the worms that are inside, and that's what gives them the three eyes, right? Okay. And when you look closely at them, you can basically see that like essentially the worms have taken over their bodies, right? Like, and like the dreadnought is supposedly made from the discarded corpse of a worm god. There's Zol and Yul and a couple others. They're all referenced in the Grimoire stuff from the big expansion from Destiny 1 that added the Dreadnought.
I was going to say, because I'm racking my brain. I'm like, how come I know nothing about what you're talking about?
Yeah, if you've read the Book of Sorrows were all the Grimoire things that were added for the Taken King.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of stuff that gives you the whole background. But like, again, the only way you'd know all of this stuff is you'd read all that stuff, which I've gone to the trouble of doing.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to know like what other people who aren't as big into the lore, do they care about this stuff? Because otherwise it's just basically go to a point, turn on your ghost, fight waves of guys, go to another point, kill some dudes, turn on your ghost, fight waves of guys. It continues to be that. They've added some new stuff where we had the Scorch Cannon way back in the House of Wolves, and now we have the Valkyrie, which is just basically the Scorch Cannon.
But it's got a new name though.
It's a javelin. It's a magic javelin that
magical
Rasputin makes. Rasputin's in this. He doesn't actually ever say anything to you.
Yeah, but he exists.
He exists, and he's back to his full power. As not Charlemagne like a lot of people thought. Now they've sort of retconned that out. There's no more. It's not Warminds plural. It's Warmind singular.
Okay.
There's only one Warmind, and it's Rasputin, and that's kind of what they got going on.
Cool.
So there we are. Like I said, it was a better experience than Curse of Osiris. It's still not perfect. It's still got a whole bunch of problems.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff that's really fun that I really did enjoy. Like, when they first introduced Zol, there's this whole like cool effect where like Zol like talks to you and like it feels like he's like he speaks with such gravity and such a like eldritch ancient evil that he literally when he speaks he shakes reality, right? Like the colors and stuff get all wibbly wobbly with like his text with his like VO and stuff like that.
Okay.
But then you fight him and the fight is kind of not terribly exciting. Mm-hmm. It kind of like reminds me if you were like fighting a flying tremor from the movie Tremors, because he's got that same kind of look where he's got like a big three prod.
But that sounds awesome. I want to fight like a flying tremor from the movie Tremors. That sounds fun. It sounds more fun than what you're describing.
It would be fun if all he did was like pop up on one side, then shoot, then pop up on the other side, then shoot. It's the same problem that a lot of like large scale bosses have in first person shooters. Like, how do you interact with that boss? Yeah. Right. Other than just like they're over there and you're over here and you shoot at them and then they go to another place that's like, so like you're on this big disc kind of like arena and it just kind of floats around you and he hangs out over there and shoots fire at you and then hangs over there and shoots fire at you and then hangs over behind you and then shoots fire at you and then in the meantime waves of hive come at you.
That's the tough thing about the first person shooter space is that it sounds like they're trying to introduce some MMO mechanics here.
Yeah, though I mean they've been trying to do that from day one.
I know they've been trying to do that forever, but
Yeah.
I think the design space for the first person shooter approaching that is just it's way more limited than something like a third person MMO is.
I think there's room to do something here. They have to get really creative. I think the thing that's still limiting them is their tools. Right. You can tell that they're working within like a very constrained sort of like design space. Like one of the things that always irritates me is like there's like status effects in the game like there is in like MMOs.
Yeah.
But they never do a great job of conveying those things visually. Right. They'll just have like a little like piece of text in the bottom right hand corner like the worm calls to you or like it's a Tuesday or like you're cold.
Unlike in an MMO, for example, where you have a status effect, it'll have like usually a red box around it. You highlight the status effect with your mouse, and it explains everything you need to know about it to you.
But even at that, I mean,
it's not helpful, but it's still at least telling you what's happening.
It is at least that is very detailed, and that's what like MMOs are about, like all of that, right? But the whole point of like games like Destiny was to try to take those concepts and sort of more abstractly then convey them to you in a more visual way, right? Like that your weapon does more damage because more fire comes out of it, or like that you're getting a critical hit because their head explodes, or in some cases like they literally have numbers flying out of them, but or like the numbers are yellow instead of white, or like that there's a fire shield around a guy because it's got that fire effect or whatever, right? So you should use an elemental fire weapon because you're supposed to be making like these really quick decisions really fast, like rapid fire. I wish they would be able to do that sort of stuff with status effects too. They're getting there, like stuff like there's like this weird status effect where like the the corners of the screen kind of go like a green haze. Right. That kind of stuff, you know, like, and other games have done in the past. As you're taking damage, the whole strawberry jam.
Well, and
thing,
again,
right?
the MMOs do that too. Where if you're poisoned or if you're standing in something like there's usually an aura around the screen itself that's telling you, hey, you should maybe move from where you're standing, or you need to look at your status effects. You know, and as opposed to like none of that, and just having a thing in the bottom right hand corner that says you are poisoned, or something even more abstract than that, which is like the call of the worm. Yeah. What does that even mean? What does that mean to it? Like it would be cooler if instead, like when you got the call of the worm status effect, like you actually heard stuff, right? Like you start hearing like gibberish and stuff, and it's sort of like every once in a while, like, you know, like an English voice will come out and say, or like whatever your native speaking language is, whatever version of the game you're playing in, say like whispering like scary things to you, right? And then you're like, oh, like something weird's going on here, like you hear like, and like your controls have slowed down and whatever. There are better ways to like visually tell that information, and that would tie it more closely with the narrative, and that I would find more interesting. I know that other people, that's not what they want. They want more sort of like hardcore game mechanic-y stuff, and they want things like, you know, you have the light inside you in the bottom right-hand corner, so I got to go stand over on this plate, and then that'll activate. Yeah, that stuff. That's the stuff in Destiny that I like the least. Not the gameplay stuff, but just how they convey that stuff visually. Right. So. And sometimes it just feels kind of gimmicky and goofy and silly to me. But yeah, so there's a lot of that in this game still, and it hasn't gone away. But they still have managed to frame it a little bit more and made it more interesting and more fun. That's good. Still has problems where, like, you know, you like the end of the game, or rather the end of the expansion, the expansion itself. Once you complete the narrative, once you complete the story, there's more content to be done. But like just to finish the story itself, you get an ending cutscene. Right. And then you're back in orbit, and then you have to go visit a character on the planet, and then you have to go back to the tower and visit another character, then go back to the planet again. Like it does stupid stuff like that. That's really obnoxious. It's just bad design. That reminds me of Assassin's Creed 3 all the time, where you run to one end of town, you trigger a cutscene. You run to another end of town, you trigger another cutscene. You run back to the same spot you ran from, trigger another cutscene, and the mission's over. Yeah, and this is a lot of between Anna Bray and Zavala. Anna Bray is on Mars, Zavala is in the tower, right? So it's like you talk to Anna Bray, then you talk to Zavala in the tower, then you talk to Anna Bray, and then it's like, okay, good, now you can do this quest. All right. And the other part of it, too, just give it back to me when I was there. Yeah, there's the biggest and the most annoying thing I found was, so keep in mind I'm playing this like about a month and a half or 2 months after it's come out. Right. So there's a lot of people who are playing the endgame stuff, and one of the new big endgame things is this public thing called Escalation Protocol. Okay. Escalation Protocol is kind of like a horde mode, but in the world. Oh. In sort of like in shared spaces in public. Cool. So you go, someone will go trigger it, and up to, I think it's up to 6 people can do it together. Okay. And like just more and more harder waves keep spawning, and if you can get all the way to the end, you get the best loot. Oh. The problem with that is I'm trying to navigate those public spaces while I'm trying to get to my various quests and stuff as part of both the story and stuff like that. Yeah, they're in the same areas. And they're in the same areas, and there are dudes that are so much higher level than me that I can't even hurt them. Right. Right. So like I'll be like, oh, there's a hive. I have to kill hive to collect some little doohickeys to finish this adventure, and I'll start shooting them, and it'll be like immune. And then it'll be like, oh, you've joined Escalation Protocol. I'll be like, oh, well, fuck, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah. So there might be some in-game queue that I wasn't picking up on that I like, because they have like a little red exclamation point next to them or something, I shouldn't be shooting at them. But it was just annoying that like all this insanity was going on while I was just trying to pick out which of the dudes I was supposed to be killing, which was the right hive to kill. That actually happened, speaking of Final Fantasy XIV, that used to happen in that game all the time, because there are events in the real world called Fates that actually work very similarly. Yeah. And they happen usually in quest areas. So if you're just leveling one of your characters and you go to this area and you need to kill a certain number of creatures to fulfill your quest, usually you can't, because they're way higher level than you, because it's a fate is going on. Yeah. Whatever, which is annoying. Yeah. So it's one of those shared space things. This is one of those things, and because a lot of people are now at 370 where they can do the
the escalation protocol, that's principally what people are doing. Right. So that becomes the most sort of like disruptive element of it.
Yeah.
That wasn't fun. The other thing I hate about this game too is every time like I want to take a break. There's no, like, because it's an always connected game. If you, essentially the resume function on your Xbox or your PlayStation doesn't work,
right?
Because you go and like I go to like, okay, it's I'm gonna cook some dinner and and watch watch a TV show with my partner and take the dog for a walk, and then I'll come back and then I'll go back into Destiny and play for another hour. And of course you come back and it's like you've been disconnected from the Destiny server. Yeah. Okay, reconnecting to the Destiny server, re-log in, select your character, go back to your adventure. Yeah. At least they are checkpointing things a lot better, so you can do that now like mid-mission.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that before.
Right. And I mean, the main reason they do that, for people who don't know, who are newer to these types of games, it's basically to just not have the servers be plagued with a bunch of people who just aren't doing anything, because it can break servers that way.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's... They need to figure out a way to do that. Like, there needs to be like a thing where at least you go back to the lobby or something. Like, don't surface it to me. Don't give me the whole like you've been like kicked from the servers or whatever. Yeah. Like, just I don't know, return me to orbit or something like that. So at least the game's still running. So then I have to wait for like an area to load. It's really They've got some thinking to do. They've got some problems to solve there in terms of like there are other games that do that too. Far Cry, I believe, did that a lot too. Or Hitman, every time I go back to Hitman, I'd be like, okay, reconnecting to the Hitman servers, and then you'd wait like 2 minutes for it to reconnect.
Basically,
to like,
any game that's where like it's basically always online.
Yeah. At least in Hitman, like you can say it like you can hit cancel, and you can go back to playing and then let it connect in the background. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I wish it would kind of do something like that, where like the connection is happening somewhere else, and I can at least get in and like goof with my character, or like go to the director and pick where I'm going to go next. And then it says, and then it shows me like the flying ship, and I just, maybe it takes a little bit longer. I don't know. Yeah. You know,
I know that there is one game where that they actually do that with, where it actually, they keep you connected. It's an always on online game, and that's Diablo 3. It's a game that actually, after the whole Error 47 thing at launch happened, they had it where you would get disconnected after about 20 minutes. But when Reaper of Souls came out, they totally lifted that restriction, and you can just stay logged in. Yeah, if you want.
And it's interesting because
they found a way to make it work.
Yeah, Destiny, I would say, probably has more in common with something like Diablo than it does something like World of Warcraft or something. I mean, certainly they all have sort of like overlaps, because they now, all these genres now borrow stuff from one another. Yeah. But
it also helps they're all made by the same like mega corporation.
Yeah, I would say that, like, you know, Destiny is probably more of a loot shooter than it is of an MMO. Right. So but if you like Destiny, if you like Destiny 2, this expansion's worth playing. Cool. Go for it, and especially if you want to play Forsaken, I think you probably will want to play this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, if you're excited for Forsaken, you've probably already either installed it or installed the expansion pass, or are going to play it, because you need it in order to play Forsaken, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Last question I have for you before we get to what I'm playing.
Yeah.
Drew, I haven't been hearing people being very excited for Forsaken. Are you at all excited for Forsaken?
I am. They're switching up stuff so much. I'm very interested to know what's going on. And there's some weirdness going on in Destiny. We'll talk about that in the news a little bit. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to know what the hell they're doing with the game. I kind of feel like Forsaken will give us a bigger picture of that. But, you know, again, the weird thing is, Forsaken was almost exclusively developed by High Moon.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to know, like, what a different studio does with the game. And so far, the plans, like changing a whole bunch of supers, like basically there's going to be like alt supers for like all the subclasses and stuff like that.
Nice.
So like, you know, Hammer Bro now has a big sledgehammer and a bunch of other cool stuff. It'll be really cool to see what that stuff is and how it works. That sounds really exciting. They're going back to like a different loadout system, instead of, it was like, you had kinetic and energy, and then your heavy weapon or whatever. I think they're changing that too. They're going back to random rolls for weapons and a whole bunch of weird stuff. So like they're really shaking stuff up, which sounds cool. Yeah. So that's promising.
And High Moon's a really good studio as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they produce really good games. So.
I like their Transformers game, so that's that's definitely a plus for them. And they're adding some cool story content, like the Dreaming City is like the capital city of the Awoken, and we don't know anything about it. We've never heard of it before, so it'll be interesting to see what the lore of that is. That's where the new raid is going to take place. Finally, no more Leviathan raid layers stuff.
Oh my god!
And the new raid is in the Dreaming City. The main bad guy in the Dreaming City is the Taken, I think, from what I heard.
Okay.
So and we don't know a lot about the Awoken. We don't have a lot of background of like what are they and how did things happen, other than just like the Traveler released some light, and then there was a bunch of humans who were trying to escape the solar system when the darkness was coming, and all of their ships crashed in the asteroid belt, and that's what the reef is all these ruined ships. Right. And everyone who was there on those ships got exposed to something that turned them into the Awoken, and everyone thinks it's the light. Like they've been bathed in the light extra a lot for some reason.
They infuse themselves with light.
Well, I don't know if it was their choice or not. We have no idea.
Who knows?
But that's why they're all like got weird purpley, pinky, weird colored, funky skin and weird eyes. And what does it mean to be Awoken? Are they like the elves of this world? And I don't know.
They're more just like the equivalent of Soldier from Final Fantasy VII, where they inject the life force into their eyes.
Yeah, well,
the Mako.
Okay. I don't know. So it'd be nice to get some backgrounds. We've gotten a lot of clear background on who and what the Exos are now, especially like if you're a lore nerd, you can learn some sort of like definitive stuff about what the Exos are from the last two expansions. Especially there was a bunch of stuff to set up the current expansion, Warmind, because we learned essentially that Rasputin made the Exos, right, or that he had done something with it, like that Braytech that created Rasputin started the Exos and then was trying to perfect it, and then essentially Rasputin did something, and now we know that all the Exos were at one point human. They're humans that have had their memories transplanted into a robot body. And then something happened to them where we think Rasputin used them as soldiers to help defend the city or the Traveler or something at some point as part of Rasputin's sort of machinations. And Rasputin is back to full power now, so who knows what's going to happen. I don't know.
All the Exos are going to just turn on humanity again.
Sure, I don't know.
Because Rasputin says so.
Yeah, like who knows what the hell's going on. So it'll be interesting to see. They've actually changed some of the lore and developed some of the narrative a little bit, and that's exciting. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that. I was actually playing something else. I threw Subnautica on my laptop because I just wanted to see what its performance was versus what it was like on the Xbox One, because they're still refining that game.
Especially now that you have a high-end PC. Yes.
So, and hoo-wee, it looks real pretty on ones, real fast. When you like, I was playing it like basically, I was playing like 2K essentially on, just booting around. It's a great game if you like sort of like survival games and sci-fi games. It's definitely worth playing.
One announcement I left off because I guess I forgot that they announced it this week is that the Subnautica is actually coming to PS4 because the game itself is actually getting released.
Yes, in
a couple months.
Yeah, like they've essentially completed the PC version, and there's going to be a formal console launch, right? And I know that they were committing to getting the console version up to speed, and that was the most recent update I had heard from them.
Right.
Other game I played was a game that's real early, super early demo for a game called Crying Suns, which is like an indie game.
I literally know nothing about this game, so you tell me about it.
It's really cool. It's has a lot in common with FTL.
Okay.
In terms of like how you play it, you have like a star map, and each star that you go to has a series of random encounters, and then there's like a top-down sort of like battle thing. It's got some problems. I mean, it's crazy early. In terms of like I was playing this game from the Unity launcher inside.
Oh,
it's like not even like a fully compiled game. Yeah. Like it's really interesting. The graphic art is really interesting. They're doing like a combination of like pixel art and polygonal stuff. It's got like a really cool sort of dark universe. The writing, I don't know where they're at with it. I don't know how far along it is, but the writing so far in the early version,
for something that early,
it's not great.
It's probably not great.
No,
to be fair, if we took a look at most games, that have story in them, like that early in development, they probably would look a little rough.
Yeah. So I can tell you this is a story not phenomenal. Just the writing in general, like the moment-to-moment writing, just like the dialogue. I'm like, you guys, we really need to hire a better writer. This stuff's not great.
Yeah.
Or refine it or do whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really interesting game. Really dark game. It reminds me a little bit of Dune in terms of like what the world building is like and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool game.
Before I get into what I was playing.
Yeah.
Drew, we got so excited about Destiny, I didn't tell people where they can find us.
Oh, yeah. We're podcasting stuff.
Yeah. So you can find our podcast every single Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time on game-moose.com, as well as podcast services around the globe.
So those podcast services, for those, there's been a lot of changes recently in podcast services. If anybody's confused now, I'm going to simplify it for you.
Do it.
Apple Podcasts is now the podcasting service from Apple.
Yep.
So Apple Podcasts is where you will find our podcast if you are on an iOS device, or if you have iTunes or that application, Apple Podcasts. We are now also on Google Podcasts, which is a thing.
Yeah.
You can go to the if you have an Android device, you can download and install the Podcasts app from Google, and you can grab us there. I would recommend that. There are a number of different podcasting apps on the Android platform. If you have one that you absolutely love, go for it. But I found that, heads and tails, I used to use things like Dogcatcher and a few others. I find that Google's own app is amazing, and it's free. And it has, of course, we're listed there amongst other people.
Right.
And then, of course, we're on Spreaker, and then our RSS is open. It's in a whole bunch of other places like Player FM and so on. So, yeah, or you can just go to the flipping webpage and listen to it there if you want.
That's true. Game-moose.com.
That's how you do.
Also, if you like what we do, if you're listening to ad on Apple Podcasts or Google Play, because they let you rate things, rate our podcast. Give it the old 5 stars if you want to give us 5 stars, or don't if you don't want to. Read it, write us a review. All that stuff definitely helps us out as well. Also, if you're watching the video version, even though it's not actually video this week on YouTube or game-moose.com/video, like the video, subscribe to our channel, all that good stuff. Leave a comment. I will go in the comments and talk to you about things.
Cool.
So other thing I want to get out of the way as well, Drew, our friends at Wizards of the Coast provided us beta codes to give away from MTG Arena's closed beta.
Oh, that's the other thing I played.
Yeah.
I played the
you finally played it?
I played the
We can finally talk about it.
I literally just finished the tutorial.
Okay.
It is very much what you said it was, which is the best of both worlds between MTG Online so far and Duels of the Planeswalker. Yeah. It's Duels of the Planeswalkers. It is a very, very good experience. Mm-hmm. Really like the targeting system, you get the arrow coming down from the card to point on things, and it's snappy, it's fun, it's flexible. I like it. If you like Magic and you don't want to go buy some cards, this is a great way to do it, especially because these days, if you're not into going to a store and playing in a tournament or meeting new people, this is an easy way to just find people and not worry about the awkward social experience of having to leave your home.
Especially because it's exactly the same experience that you'd have doing that. Yeah. Especially because it has standard and draft.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 formats it has. There's also a 3rd format called Singleton, which if you've ever played the Commander format, basically you build a 60-card deck, or actually it's more like Brawl, which is a new format, where you build a 60-card deck and you can only have 1 of each card in your deck, except for basic lands, of course, because you need to be able to play your cards. And that's only on MTG Arena. So if you like those formats, then I think it's a great program overall for sure. They just ran an event this week where they were trying to break the servers, so they had free standard events and stuff like that, and you can win awesome prizes. So if you want to check it out, I have codes to give away. Again, thanks to our friends at Wizards of the Coast for providing these. So I'm going to read off some codes, Drew.
Okay.
I'm going to read off 2 now, and then the other 3 later.
Alrighty.
So first come, first serve. So if you just go to mtgarena.com, enter this code, and you can sign up. So first code, HSSIYMOE6H. Second code, 8NOZ4TMASI. F. So yeah, I'll give out the other 3 codes a little bit later once we talk about the news. I will give those out then. So Drew, I played games this week. Surprising no one.
Wow.
I know. To be fair, though, I pretty much played 1 game this week. But I'm going to talk about another one real quick. But before I do, this is going to spoil my Retro Game Treasure unboxing video that I unboxed this week.
Oh, boy.
So if you haven't seen that video yet and you don't want to be spoiled, go over to game-boost.com/video, watch my Retro Game Treasure unboxing, and then come back.
Cool.
You still here? Great. All right. So this week, I played a game I had never played before. A game that I got in the mail as part of Retro Game Treasure. Drew, have you ever played The Goonies on Famicom before?
Oh, yeah.
For The Goonies on Famicom, first of all, never came to North America. It only exists on the Famicom.
That's right. You know why I know about this? Because I watched your unboxing.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, that's true. I did watch this. Yeah, because you weren't sure what it was when you pulled it out of the box.
I thought it was The Goonies 2, because that was the only one I knew about, because I didn't know that
there was a Goonies one.
The Goonies one, or if there was, it was exclusive to Japan. But it turned out it came out in 1986 and only came out in Japan.
Yeah.
And it's a side-scrolling platforming adventure game where you basically have to gather keys from these doors you blow up with bombs, and then you basically, once you have 3 keys, you can exit the level. And it was a ton of fun. I was actually really surprised by it. Like, I was capturing footage for the video, because I do that for every single game in the video. I personally capture it. And yeah, I just sat down and played it for like 2 hours.
Dope.
And it was a ton of fun. I played it from start to finish. I even unlocked the secret level on the pirate ship, because in order to get to it, you have to rescue all the Goonies. And yeah, I had a blast.
Awesome. It's a real sharp looking cartridge, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Ryan.
Sure.
Is Sloth in this one?
He is in this one.
Interesting.
But only when you get to the final level. So basically, there's a final level on the pirate ship that you can only unlock if you rescue the remaining Goonies members throughout the game.
Okay.
And Sloth is on the final level.
I'm gonna say this right now. I don't remember that happening in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't remember someone having to rescue all of the Goonies with bombs.
Kicking rats in the face.
Yeah, there was no scene where they kicked a rat in the face, I don't think, anyway.
Well, multiple rats, too.
Wow.
And including the white rats that, when you kill them, they drop a cross that give you invincibility. Kind of like the Castlevania cross.
Okay. All right.
It's a really weird game, and it's a Konami game.
Yeah, licensed games were weird back then, man.
But that's the thing. It was Konami, and Konami was doing really good licensed games back then.
Also, let's be real. The Goonies movie itself is also super weird.
Yeah.
That movie is very strange. There's a lot of weird stuff with it scared me as a kid. Sloth was scary at first because they had this whole thing where he was chained in the basement. Right. And then the bad guys are these evil gangsters, and they seem really scary.
Yeah. The evil gangster in the game is really scary because you can't kill him. You can knock him over and he's temporarily stunned, but then he keeps coming after you. He keeps hounding you. He's kind of like Jason in Friday the 13th, the game.
Yeah.
Also,
the whole crux of the movie is essentially that you're trying to get the treasure for someone who has whose name is a euphemism for penis. It's One-Eyed Willie.
It's true.
They're I got to get the treasure from One-Eyed Willie.
I mean, it's also very much a pirate name.
They knew what they were doing, right?
They knew what was up.
They were we'll get everybody saying.
It was also the 1980s. You could totally get away with that.
Yeah, you could just make sly references to ding dongs and just on the DL, and no one would really call you on it.
The real question is, how many kids in North America were confused when they saw The Goonies 2 and then didn't see a Goonies 2 movie?
I'm putting up
how many people went to Blockbuster I want to rent The Goonies 2 the movie.
I'm putting my hand up.
That doesn't exist.
Yeah, because that was weird as fuck. Yeah, so they made a sequel to the video game called Goonies 2, which was arguably the more popular version of that game in North America.
It came out here.
Yeah, yes.
Unlike the first one, which
did not. So yeah, so there's a whole generation of kids who are confused, who's there's a Goonies 2 video game, but there's no Goonies 2 movie. What the fuck? And as a fan of the Goonies movie, I've been waiting for a Goonies 2 for a long time.
Yeah,
it's funny because
it's never happening. They will reboot the Goonies with some kid actors.
They've made rumors about there being a new Goonies. There's been Sean Astin has talked about that a million times since for the last 20 years.
They're going to just turn it into Stranger Things, the movie. It'll be the one and the same, Drew.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
All the kids from Stranger Things will be in it.
All the kids from Stranger Things will find a One-Eyed Willie. One-Eyed Willie. Yeah.
Maybe it'll be the same company that's doing the reboot of Reboot the Guardian Corps, and all those kids will be in it instead.
That is real bad.
That was a really bad reboot.
The reboot. It's really sad what happened to Reboot. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. And the other game I've been playing a lot, I put another 15 hours into Octopath Traveler this week, Drew. And I got things to say. I think I understand now even more so where Jason Schreier was coming from with his criticisms of the game, because I'm starting to feel it a bit myself. So here are my criticisms of Octopath, because I've already ranted and raved about why I like Octopath Traveler, especially last week. I went more in depth as to why I really like the game. So here's what I don't like. As you progress through the game, modern JRPGs have sort of fixed this issue that I have with Octopath Traveler, where your party members that you aren't using in this game do not level as you level.
I have weird feelings about that, because it's really annoying to then go back and grind characters.
Yes.
Especially in games where they take the characters away from you for story reasons and then they come back under leveled. Yeah. I feel like a lot of games fixed that a long time ago.
Yes. This game doesn't do that. Instead, and not only that, you, in order to progress their stories, you need to have the character that you aren't using leveled in order to go do their story, because their story doesn't level along with you. You have to get some of these characters to level 25 just for their second chapter, which involves a lot of grinding. Okay. We're talking 3 hours of grinding to get them just to that level.
Cool.
Can be some serious problems. In fact, what makes it even worse, first of all, you have 8 party members, so you'd think, okay, I'll just level with this party of 4 people, and then I'll level with this party of 4 people, right? Except for the fact that there's a caveat where you can't remove the character you started with from your party, meaning you will always have one person, regardless of how you do your party, who's left behind.
Right.
Which leads to, again, just huge issues with me. So I think that the game becomes much more enjoyable than at that point just to do the 4 character stories that you started with, and then eventually go back. But even then, if you finish just those 4 character stories, you are still well under-leveled above the next set of content for those characters. Because, for example, when I finished Primrose, who's the character I started with, when I finished her chapter 2, she was level 25. Her next story chapter, you have to be level 36, because that's what the content is. You have to somehow gain 10 levels from there, and you gain levels actually pretty slowly unless you go defeat enemies that are 10 levels above you.
Right.
Which in a JRPG, as you probably know from playing Final Fantasy VI, if you try and do that, it's really tough. Some battles can just last for 20 minutes because the enemies are way higher level.
They go on and on and on.
So I'm a little bit more forgiving of that, because this is a portable game and you can play it on the bus. But if this was a home console game, I would have a much bigger problem with it, I think, because if I have to grind with my characters, I will wait to do that for when I'm on the bus or on the train or doing basically in bed, not sitting in front of my TV essentially. And usually I don't mind the grinding as much. It's just when you have to sit there and grind for 3 hours, it's really, really annoying. That being said, I do really like, now that I've sort of played through each person's chapter 2, I do like where each of the individual character stories are going. But the issue I have with each person's chapter 2 is all their layouts are exactly the same. You go to a town that's assigned to that character's chapter 2 story. You basically have some dialogue where you basically go from place to place, talking to people, and then sort of figuring out where to go now, progressing the story forward. And then you get sent to one dungeon and you fight one boss, and then the chapter ends.
Okay. And
it's like that for each of the 8 characters' chapters. So if you play them all in a row, it gets very samey.
Yeah,
as far as its formula is. Whereas traditional Final Fantasy games, for example, you would as you progress through the story, you're not. The formula isn't you go to a town, you talk to people, you go to a dungeon, and then you go to the next town. That's not usually how those games work.
Yeah.
You go to the dungeon, and then it might lead to another dungeon, or you might have multiple bosses in that dungeon, and so on and so on. That's not how this game progresses, which is a big disappointment for me.
Yeah.
As someone who is a fan of those games, and especially a game that's trying to harken back to those games.
Yeah.
That said, I absolutely love the combat of this game. It's incredible. It's so addicting to do battles. That's why even though I was grinding, I didn't mind as much either, is that I liked the combat so much that I almost didn't care.
Yeah, grinding in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I just know it's a big turnoff for a lot of modern gamers.
Yeah.
Because modern games don't make you do that as much anymore.
No, that's true.
Especially even like something like Persona 5, what's so beautiful and elegant about the way that game's designed is that it doesn't matter what party you bring with you, other than sort of you're matching your strategies against the boss's strategies or the enemy strategies in the palace. But your characters level with you, and you never have to worry about grinding as much because the content scales around your character in that game.
Right.
Whereas this game, it doesn't do that. So like by the time I want to, like if I want to go do Ulrich's story, he's currently level 13. If I want to go do his chapter 3, he has to be level 40, and I have to sit there and grind him from level 13 to level 40 for hours. If I want to go experience that.
Okay.
So,
well, I mean, overall though, I mean, this sounds like it was a positive experience. Regardless, you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's still not over yet. Because I'm only 40 hours into this game, and I haven't finished anyone's story yet.
Well, that's not bad.
It's a really, really long game.
I mean, that's all right, though. I mean, that's what... That's,
you get your bang for your buck, for sure.
Going back to the good old days where you get like 60 hours out of a JRPG, right? Like,
and I'm still not sick of the soundtrack or the visual style or anything like that. In fact, the visual style is still amazing. I am hopeful from what I've heard from other people's experiences with Chapter 3s, because I haven't started any character's Chapter 3 yet. And each character has 4 chapters, essentially, to the story.
Yeah.
I feel, from what I hear, that samey formula changes for each character's chapter 3. So I'm hoping that sort of reinvigorates the experience. But if it's more of the same, then I think that's going to be what holds this game back, at least for me anyways, from being an amazing game to just being a great game.
So quick question, Ryan. Any nudity in this one?
No.
No? No. All right, too bad.
There's no spoony bards in this one either.
All right, well, okay, noted.
That's less exciting, I guess.
Yeah.
But do you really do 16-bit nudity?
I mean, it hasn't stopped people before.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There in Primrose's second chapter, spoilers for a little bit of Primrose's second chapter, you have to go to a prostitution house where...
A whorehouse?
Yes.
As they're also known?
Yes. Where you basically have to, liberate them from this evil, like, taskmaster.
A pimp.
Yes.
We call that a pimp.
They don't call him that in the game, though.
Well...
You're calling him that.
I don't know what the fuck the game is doing.
But yeah, so you do that, but there's no nudity.
See, I feel like that's a wasted opportunity.
Yeah. Well, no, because in order to infiltrate the whorehouse, you have to go through the sewer system.
Mm.
And then when you come out of the sewer system, it just happens to lead right into his room.
So the sewer goes right into the pimp's room.
Yeah. And
there's no nudity?
No.
I don't know, man. Like,
yeah,
it's going to lose 2 points right there for me.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. I mean, it's automatically down to an 8 for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Or no, I'm talking stars, man. This is out of 5.
Oh,
so this is by definition the max it can get is 3 out of 5.
How does this affect the fun factor, though? The Game Pro fun factor.
The reviewers tilt. I don't know.
Oh man, God, those Game Pro reviews back in the day were so good.
Yeah.
Fucking fun factor.
Anyway,
all right, let's move on to actual topics this week, Drew. So let's talk about this first story that really sort of grinded your gears this week.
Well, it's fucky. I mean, it is what I think is always going to be an issue, and that is that once something becomes so big, like video games have become, and now that we've got this whole like secondary market to the various like in-world things, so like you have things like the CS:GO lottery scam,
which we had a whole giant episode devoted to a long time ago.
Yeah, so I mean that's a whole fucking thing, like basically when it becomes really easy to sell things, then essentially they become like unto money themselves. And then that just means that you can do real sketchy, scammy, gross shit with them. So in this case, Clash of Clans, the in-game currency, apparently there was a report written that there seems to be some indication that they're using, some criminal enterprises are using that to launder their money.
This report comes, of course, from German cybersecurity firm Kromtech.
Yes, good Kromtech.
Yeah.
And nothing to do with Conan the Barbarian, though.
No, of course not.
Yeah, by Krom, not related. But it's weird. I mean, I kind of wanted to mention it because this is what's going to happen. The more popular these things become the more sort of like sketchy, weird, gross stuff is going to come out of it. This is what happens when you have things like V-Bucks and, you know, and like you sell skins and stuff like that. This is when we talk about like as things become, the more things become games of service, the more they become exposed to things like this, right? Things like lottery scams, things like money laundering and other sorts of things. And it's real scary, man.
So basically how this works, according to the report that we got, is essentially like the person who does the stealing takes the money, pours it into a Clash of Clans account, then sells the account on eBay for X number of dollars, and then receives the money in return.
So it's just like a one-to-one thing. It's not like the good old days where like people would do stuff like sell characters on like on WoW or something like that, because you can't pay for levels in WoW, but you can do that in
actually
other places.
You can pay for levels in WoW.
Well, you can now, but back in the
day you couldn't.
But these days, you know, you could, and they. In WoW's defense, they recognized that there was a market for that. And by setting the price of that, they essentially undercut what are these basically like video game scalpers.
Oh, right? Exactly. That happens much less now in that game, or even Final Fantasy does the same thing now. And
there's also another reason why they got rid of the real world marketplace for Diablo stuff, right? Like
that was a fucking
or the real money, like
the real money auction house.
The real money auction house. Those things become like fucking boondoggles, man. Like. Once you get real money involved, and it's all a function of games of service, it's real scary stuff. You know, like if drug lords are using your game to funnel money through, like that's scary, dude. I really hope that we get a better handle on how we monetize video games. I just wish that we could like get back to the good old days of like, you want a game, you pay X number of dollars for it, and now it's yours.
Once the iPhone opened that door, though, Drew, we're never going back to that.
I know. Like microtransactions are just a thing now.
I think we're starting to see publishers realize though that people do want that. So I think we're seeing like more experiences, at least on consoles, going back to that. Like, for example, Super Smash Brothers is an example of that, where Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, rather than having DLC, they know people would rather just pay full price. People might even be tempted just to pay more for the game if it just includes everything, and then you have to unlock it later.
And you know, people have become very vocal about stuff like pay to win and stuff, and then just loot boxes in general, and what feels like just lottery kind of stuff inside games.
You mean like how we're never going to see loot boxes again? At least from
certainly not in the way that like games like Battlefront did it. Right.
Or Middle Earth.
Middle Earth. You know, literally just pulled loot boxes from an update this week. Right. So that shit fucky.
Crazy.
Next story, right?
2018 games this week, man.
Video games be video games.
All right, Drew. We talked about Destiny earlier.
Yes, we did.
We are going to talk about Destiny again this week.
Yeah, this is some weird news, man.
Yeah. So Nolan North has taken up the mantle of Cade 6 in the upcoming Destiny 2 The Forsaken expansion. Nathan Fillion was unavailable during the recording of the expansion's VO, but hasn't ruled out reprising his role as the character in the future. He provided, of course, that Cade 6 comes back. So spoilers for the Forsaken's trailer.
We for the trailer.
He dies.
We already know that. Yeah, he comes back and he dies.
And Bungie confirmed he's dead.
He's dead. Yeah, they keep saying he's not coming back. He's dead. And Nathan Fillion did not voice Cade for the Forsaken campaign, which is interesting and weird. And I don't know why they did that.
Yeah. It sounds like a similar situation to when Peter Dinklage left, because at first they weren't saying he was fired. At first they just said he just couldn't be here when we all the time. Like when we needed him basically to schedule. And it kind of sounds like the same thing here. But less shady reasons, because Nathan Fillion said, we already talked about it. If he ever comes back, or if they rewrite him back, or if they do Cade 1 through 5, he'll do it and it'll be fine. So it's not a bad blood thing. It just happened to be they have a very specific window of when they have to have the VO recorded. And he just couldn't do it.
He wasn't available. Which I'm sure is one of the reasons that motivated why he died. I know that what's his name, Lance, whatever, the guy who plays Zavala. He loves doing the voice work for that game, and I just think he's not as busy for whatever reason.
Whereas Nathan Fillion, I think, has a new show coming out and some other stuff.
He's
busy all the time.
He's got a bunch of stuff on the go. He's a big old movie star. So Yeah, and I know that like most of the voice stuff that they recorded had all been pre-recorded, right? So like because people had data mined the game and found references like other voice recordings of people talking about Cade being dead. I suspect it has something to do with the fact that they had basically planned up until the beginning of this expansion, all the way back when they did Destiny 2.
Right.
I think that was as far as they knew. Like, okay, the first thing that's gonna happen is he's gonna die at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
And then that's all we got from here. And
they
then
needed
we'll
that water cooler moment planned.
Yeah. And so then when they went to go, okay, how are we gonna record the VO? Oh, Nathan's not available. Shit. I guess. Well, we're gonna have to get somebody else and so on. So I don't know.
It's still a shame though, because he brought so much personality to that character. He is that character.
He is.
And just when they kill him off is like when like his last hurrah is essentially when they don't have him anymore.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see like I suspect that he's barely in this expansion.
Yeah.
I think he's like literally in it for one mission and then he dies.
It also seems really like it'd probably be really awkward to have Nolan North be the ghost and Cade.
All the time?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so I think like it was like he probably had like a handful of lines and it was they just needed somebody to do it who could sound. And
I mean, Destiny doesn't really do flashbacks or anything, so it's not like and from what we've been told, that section where he dies is like at the beginning of the expansion.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the first mission, essentially. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a bummer, but also interesting, and it paints an interesting picture of like what is coming next for Destiny after Forsaken. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another return of Rise to Iron, where it's just going to be a PvP expansion, and it'll be terrible.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, okay, it wasn't terrible. That's a mean thing to say.
I didn't like it at all.
All right. Speaking of things you didn't like, Drew, this is a weird one. So 5 years after its initial release, a modder by the name of James Dickinson 963 discovered a spelling error in the AI code of Aliens Colonial Marines. Yeah. Basically, like the word tether, like AI, like tether was spelled wrong without a T or whatever. Mm-hmm. This affected the AI's tactical positioning adjustment, patrolling and targeting zoning, and correcting the spelling error dramatically improves the enemy and ally AI for Aliens Colonial Marines. Because if people remember when Aliens Colonial Marines came out, one of the biggest criticisms for that game was the AI, where it basically didn't function. Where like the aliens would basically just run straight at you and do anything else. And your allies were like essentially useless. They would just stand there, sometimes just spinning around in circles, just shooting randomly, essentially. Whereas this totally changes the way that game feels. Apparently, still not a great game.
Yeah, still not good.
But it's apparently better. It's apparently less bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the AI now does stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So now the AI is not as horrible, but the game still has way more problems than just the AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
still really interesting to think about because it's like,
fascinating to think about. It's rare that we get kind of that kind of peek inside the game, right? Yeah. Like we don't get to go under the hood that much.
It's just crazy that a fucking spelling error just happened to just totally screw a lot of that game over.
I think that game could have been great if it was given more time. I think that's always that cost benefit analysis that people are always doing with those games. So maybe there's an alternate reality where that game was like in development for another year and then came out and was actually okay. Yeah. You know, who knows? But
who knows?
We don't live in that reality.
There's an alternate reality, Drew, where Aliens Colonial Marines was a good game. I wonder how it would have upset the whole balance of the universe.
Yeah, there is certainly one.
We'll never know.
Indeed.
All right, and last news story before we go. With Blizzard set to release Battle for Azeroth, they've announced that they've removed the battle chest from World of Warcraft. And essentially, if you subscribe to World of Warcraft now, you get all the expansions up to Battle for Azeroth now.
Yeah, you don't have to buy the game anymore.
Yeah,
basically, you just have to buy the client.
Yeah. Well, no, you don't even have to buy the client. You just have to subscribe to World of Warcraft.
You used to have to buy the client.
Yeah.
You do not have to do that anymore.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
They should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at this point, come on, guys. Yeah. I mean, how many billions of dollars have they made off of that game?
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So before we get into new releases real quick, I'm going to read off the remaining 3 beta codes. And then we're going to get the hell out of here. So first of 3 beta codes, YFU4HO9RRM. Next code, OYP5I56845. Z7S59. God, it's like I'm reading phone numbers off here. And last but not least, Z7SCY5G9UU. So again, if you go to mtgarena.com, plug in those codes, you can get yourself access to the closed beta for MTG Arena. Again, I want to thank Wizards of the Coast again for supplying those codes to us. And before we go, new releases this week. No Man's Sky comes to Xbox, but they also are releasing the next patch, which actually looks awesome. I installed the game on my PS4. I'm going to try it out this week. I'll report back next week. Let's see if it's not terrible.
Space Hamster Man.
Exactly. Mega Man X Legacy Collection out this week. 1 and 2 out on Tuesday. Very exciting. And last but not least, the Banner Saga 3 is out this week. There's also a giant list of indie games out this week, but that would take forever.
Yeah, we don't have that kind of time in our lives.
I'm not going to pull a Colin Moriarty on his new podcast where he just reads every single game on the PlayStation blog and their descriptions. It's like 20 minutes. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
All right, so before we go, Drew, let's go.
I'm at D McMillan on Twitter, and go to game-moose.com for the podcast and videos, Ryan's unboxing videos. Like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, ring that bell and all that stuff.
Ring that bell!
If you want to hear and see our content frequently, it's the best way to do it.
Game-moose.com.
Yeah, video stuff.
You can find the Brock McLaughlin, who's not here today, over on his Twitter page, Brock McLaughlin.
Yeah, and
like McLaughlin, BrockstarGaming.com.
BrockstarGaming.com.
His website as well. And last but not least, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford, that's TURFORD, on Facebook at facebook.com/GameMoosePodcast, as well as our Twitter page, game_moose_cast. Again, I have lots of unboxing videos all the time and it never ends. I do want to throw out something before we go as well. Follow Sean Capri on Twitter at Sean Capri. Yeah. You know why you should follow Sean Capri on Twitter? He's 18 followers away from 1,000.
Ooh,
we need to get him over the 1,000, Drew. So go follow Sean Capri on Twitter. He's an awesome dude. He puts out good content, so go check him out there. Anyways, for Drew McMillan, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 131 of the Game Moose Podcast, and we're out.